First of all, I congratulate everyone who have worked hard to make this colloquium a wonderful experience. I had a long cherished dream to be a participant of this colloquium, but due to certain unavoidable reasons, I was unable to attend this colloquium. I found it after having gone through the program, I understood that I have missed a lot, but I will somehow repair. When I have seen the great personalities who had been here on the stage for the dialogue, all the wonderful theologians of Kerala Church are there. So that itself is a clear indication that this colloquium was something very great. Of course, this colloquium, I am not going to make a long speech here because it is not necessary. Almost all the topics which are related to the priestly formation and its impact had been covered by the great theologians of India. And I have to add, I don't want to add something because I don't know what all things had been said here. So I share something which might have already been taught here. That means priestly formation is something very, very important. During the Malpanate system of the Syro-Malabar Church, many were hailing. I have heard several times people praising the Malpanate system. Of course, it has got its own wonderful impacts in the flourishing of the Syro-Malabar Church in the early centuries. But from an academic point of view and as well as from an ecclesial point of view, this sort of seminary formation, which is guided by the Supreme Pontiff and with a clear curriculum and a real mandate from the Apostolic See, had really encouraged the priestly formation to come out in wonderful colors. So, even though the Malpanate system was our tradition, I would say we have not lost anything while we embrace the new system. But the real challenge is how far are we capable of incorporating those heart-to-heart relationship which had been existing in the Malpanate system. Of course, sometimes this paradigm shift in the priestly formation in our church had adversely affected, or at least in one area, that is the cordial relationship or a familial bond that was existing between the Malpan and the Formis. So that aspect is somehow found missing. Anyway, dear ones, formation as well as training are entirely different. Priestly, we always say priestly formation. It is not merely a training. What is the importance of this delineation between training and formation? I shall say one example. I have witnessed a passing out parade of the police dog squad. I hope you may not have seen it, but I have the opportunity to witness it. There had been some 12 dogs who had been subjected to thorough training, and that training would last for around 2 years. That is the one DYSP is in charge of the dog squad, and he told me they had undergone thorough training for 2 years. Now the passing out parade is quite unusual. That means all the dogs will be laying upon the ground with their head fixed on the ground. If they move their head, they are failed in their training. So they will be subjected to another course of training. And during that time, the test is this. A cat will be led in front of the dogs. And these naughty cats will be playing with the head of the dogs. the dogs are really angry, but due to their training, they won't move their heads. Rather, we can see how horrific is his interiority. He is twisting his entire body, at least from the back. He is twisting and showing his real anger and antagonism against the naughty activities of the cat. But their head will not be moved. Once they passed the examination, the cat will be removed immediately, otherwise no single piece of the cat will be left over there. This is the difference between, this is the training. That means training is always on focusing on the exterior aspects, whereas the interior aspect is the focal point in the formation. That is why Pope Francis once said, while he was addressing the Bishops' Conference of Latin America at Rio de Janeiro, he said, "Dear bishops, our primary responsibility is to train the priests according to the demands of the time. If we fail to do so, we are in a way creating little monsters." കൊച്ചു കൊച്ചു രാക്ഷസന്മാരെയാണ് നമ്മൾ ഉണ്ടാക്കി പുറത്തേക്ക് വിടുന്നത്. I like that expression because sometimes it happens, isn't it? Priestly formation, if it is not given in the proper direction, it is likely that we create little monsters who are capable of destroying the church, destroying the very foundations of the church. That is what Pope Francis said. Yes, dear participants of this great colloquium, we are really focusing on the formation aspect. That means the heart is to be transformed. Unless and until we are capable of transforming the heart of the formee, our formation is found ineffective. That, I think, that is the sum and substance of the documents of the magisterium that are related to the priestly formation. And all the papers which had been presented here were in favor of that. There had been several aspects delineated for the priestly formation. All the 5 aspects in Optatium Dosium, there had been only 4 aspects. The missionary aspect was added by Pope Francis. With regard to synodality, the Pope Francis is a wonderful person. He had a clear-cut idea with regard to the priestly formation. He was so emphatic in stating that without priestly formation properly given, the church is going to be in danger. So, focusing on this focal point, he had presented some ideas. I have no intention of presenting all the papal ideas on priestly formation. But one thing I wanted to emphasize is, he is emphasizing on the synodal aspect of priestly formation. What is the importance of the synodal aspect of priestly formation? That means respect for the other. That is the primary foundation of synodality. He says, if you go through the final document on the synod on synodality, you will be astonished to see how important the focal point is defined. It is the baptismal grace. Holy Father said, both the Holy Father as well as a nation-born child is sharing the same Holy Spirit in its same intensity. There is no difference between the Supreme Pontiff and a newly baptized Christian, because both of them are guided by the Holy Spirit. So, by making baptismal grace as foundation for Christian life, Pope is clearly stating that we are bound to respect the other. The Pope is bound to respect the priests, bishops, the clergy, as well as everyone in the church, and even people beyond the parameters of the church. Yes, this baptismal grace is the starting point of Christian faith. This is a paradigm shift in the Christian understanding. It is a paradigm shift even from Vatican II. Vatican II was trying to present a circular form of the people of God, but Pope Francis is speaking something entirely different. He says an egalitarian concept of priesthood. But it does not deny the hierarchical significance. That is also true. He says, how do we implement synodality in the priestly formation? First is this reality, importance of baptismal grace. Second, he would suggest in the decision making, he makes a distinction between decision making and decision taking. In the decision making, one who is supposed to take the decision is bound to hear the opinion of everyone. Nobody should be left out. Everyone must be heard. It is true that sometimes majority of the people will be deadly against the hierarchical stance. It does not grant us the freedom that as they are against us, we are free to leave them out. It is impossible. If you are sincerely following the synodal path, if it is a parish incident, you have to listen to everyone involved in that issue, and then by patiently listening, that expression is very important. By patiently listening, the Holy Spirit makes a wonderful miracle, not only within the hierarchy, but also within the people who are involved. Both of them are converted into a path which is actually desired by the Holy Spirit. This is called the synodal conversion. Yes, the baptismal grace is actually prompting us to follow the synodal path of conversion. Then only it becomes a synodal resolution. It shall not be the opinion of the majority. It shall not merely be the opinion of the authority. Rather, it must be the opinion of the Holy Spirit who are actually guiding everyone within the church. Dear participants, this path of synodality is to be studied properly in our priestly formation. This is the new paradigm which our former Holy Father is suggesting, and I fully believe that this present Holy Father, Pope Leo XIV, would also follow the same path, because I had listened to him speaking in the Synod. He was completely supporting Pope Francis in his revolutionary steps. So I am fully confident that Pope Leo would also follow the same path of synodality. So this synodal way of living Christian faith is the focal point of priestly formation in the coming years, I would say. May God continue to bless each and every one of you. I know that everything must be finished within 12:30, so I don't want to prolong the time too much. Once again, I thank everyone. As the chairman of the Seminary Commission, I am really privileged to thank each and everyone who had come over all the way to Kunnooth, and all of them are wonderful, great theologians. Don't think that they have presented paper here in this rural village. They are rural theologians, but they are global theologians. Thank you everyone who had made us really great by your erudite scholarship and wonderful wisdom. And I thank Father Thomas for having generous enough to coordinate this CBCI level colloquium in this seminary in connection with the Jubilee celebration of the Good Shepherd Major Seminary. Once again, I thank everyone. Thank you.